if you start looking at the trees and at the maps of the United States, mathematically that works out to a whole lot of Bigfoot.
The same timeline of FBI knowing about it, they went out and coordinated all this disinformation or everything to squash it, kind of like the Iron Curtain that was brought down when dude came out with the laptop. I mean, everything just went just straight down.
Right. Yeah, only the people at the top are really aware of the whole thing. You know, sometimes Hollywood will try to, tell us things through cinema. The main character's daughter, Murph, she gets in trouble at school for, bringing his old textbook to school where it's talking about the moon landing.
Yeah.
And this movie takes place in 2067, and the teacher's like, yeah, but it was fake, though.
Getting to the bottom of that just got a whole lot weirder.
I looked at you and said, repeat that. You said, I've got to get to the bottom of that. We have liftoff.
Check out what's coming up on today's episode.
Unless you're dumb.
That's crazy. Right. And then you go to modern day times, and they found Gilgamesh's grave back in 2003, right before the invasion of Iraq. And through the wiki links and all that stuff, there's hundreds of emails from every department within the White House. I mean, there's some from George W. Bush, I think it was, to President, I can't remember the French president at the time, it's not Macron, but saying we have a revelation-sized event on our hand. The end times is among us.
Yeah.
That's George W. Bush to another president saying why the importance of us going and invading Iraq. That's why it's that important. That's the weapon of mass destruction that they never found, I believe they were truly after.
The giants.
Mm-hmm. And so
they sent the SWAT team.
Not just necessarily the giants, specifically Gilgamesh's bones, his grave, and his regeneration chamber.
Wait, what?
Exactly.
Regeneration chamber?
It's listed in the emails that they found.
Regeneration chamber.
Regeneration chamber. Which, you want to go back to current times and as in the days of Noah. What are they doing with those bones in that regeneration chamber? Are they trying to bring back a hybrid? Are they trying to take his DNA? Are they trying to bring Gilgamesh himself back?
Hey guys, real quick before we start the show, I wanted to let you know kind of how we do things around here, how we do the podcast. If you've ever wanted to make a podcast, we use Spotify. Spotify's got a platform that lets you make a podcast really, really easy. And then they let you distribute it everywhere and even earn some money if you want a little change, cha-ching in your pocket. And they do it all in one place. And it's for free. That's the exciting part. It's called Spotify for Podcasters. Here's how it works. They let you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or your computer. And then they'll let you distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. And if you want to take your conversations to the next level, they have really cool features like Q&A and polls. And those are the things that really get people and your fans talking about things. So with Spotify for Podcasters, you can also earn money, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And the best of all, like I said, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since I've discovered it, I feel like the options of the Q&A and the video options and the polls has really let me take the creativity of my podcasting to another level. I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started today. Dice Man Enterprises exclusively presents a talk show that will get to the bottom of things once and for all. And now here's your host for Let's Get to the Bottom of That. 3 weirdos on a mic.
What's up? Welcome back into another episode of Let's Get to the Bottom of That. I'm your host, Byron Dice, and we got a treat for you today. Welcome into the studio. The other 2 weirdos on the mic, it is Jason and Joey.
Yo.
And like I said, every week, the water is fine. Come on in, dip your toe into the little end if you're really not sure if you should be in this pond.
Yep.
But dip your toes in and come on and wade on in. The water's probably room temperature. It's just fine. Oh, by the way, we're live streaming today.
Yes.
So I just wanted to mention that. If you are listening this on Friday, which is our normal release schedule, and you hear that we are live streaming, you're like, dang, I missed that. Make sure you follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, go follow us on Instagram, Rumble, follow us on X. Any one of those platforms, when we do go live, you'll get notifications.
Right.
And appreciate Don Malik.
Don
Joining
Malik.
us. He's joined us on the Instagrammers. What's up, brother? Glad you could join us. Today we have a special treat. This is episode 72. It is the Nephilim, part 2. We have released a Nephilim. It was about a year ago. Jason don't like when I say years because we haven't been doing this for years.
It's only been 1 year.
Okay, let's go months. We released months ago. And it so far has been, although 2023, it was our biggest episode. Everybody seems to like talking about Nephilim,
Over
giants.
3,000 views on just Spotify.
Yeah, so we thought it was time because I have had several requests of, hey, when are y'all going to do another one? And when can you get that guy back on the mic? And that guy is named Jacob Russell.
Jacob,
Man, what's up, guys? Honored. You guys are the best, man. I love y'all's show.
What's up? Welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Appreciate
you guys.
you. I felt it was only right to get you back for a part 2 because in our limited time that we have, we did probably just over an hour, and that's just not enough.
Yeah,
There's so
man,
much more packed in.
My poor wife, I could talk about this a lot more. So whatever we don't discuss, I'll end up talking with her when I get home. So she might send me right back over. Don't be surprised.
Just come on back.
Bring it. But you had a lot to talk about.
No, man.
We could go for hours.
This is, I mean, it's an endless topic because it begins at the fall. And so anything, all strategy, all control, everything starts and ends there, right? So, I mean, it's at this point, you're looking, thousands of years later, it's bled into every aspect of society. So truly, it creates an endless conversation as far as how deep does this truly go?
How deep
You
does
know?
it
Yeah.
go?
You guys did a great job with the secret societies and talked about that. And I mean, that bleeds directly back into it. You could go to our education system, cosmology, pick a place, our diets, there's been an impact across the globe and across a very broad spectrum that all comes back to the fall.
That's right.
In essence, it's a battle of good versus evil, right? And I mean, not to
That's what it's been from the beginning. Yeah.
it's not to simplify it to that point, but when it truly is that clear, black and white, you have two options. There's God's way, and then there's everyone else. Isn't that what Cat Williams said the other day? I think so.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah.
There's only two. It's God's truth.
I've been meaning to go back and watch that full interview because I've just seen clips.
Yeah. I had to tell Byron who Cat Williams was. He's like, I don't know who that is.
Do
Yeah,
not,
wasn't that
don't
familiar?
watch his stand-up with your kids around.
Just watch him on the couch.
Yeah.
Rachel Perry's joined us on Instagram.
Rachel.
Appreciate you, Rachel. We got through a couple episodes and we were able to pronunciate some very big words. So
We're getting there, man.
Barely.
I think Rachel's helping us out a lot.
We also struggled a lot too.
What we
though.
need is
struggle.
a Rachel soundbite that we just say, just Rachel, just press it and it's just her name.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, let's talk. Let's just get the foundation for what we're going to springboard off of. Genesis 6. That is our text in the Bible. Genesis 6:4 to be specific. There were giants in those days. And also after that. So you got those days and what? After that, after those days.
Can I give you my theory on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Since we're we're at the
absolutely.
bottom, right?
Go ahead.
So if you go into the book, stay in the book of Genesis and start reading about Noah, it specifically says he found favor with God because his bloodline was pure. He was pure, which to me tells me, in my research and my spirit, and he hadn't within his bloodline had an interaction with anyone with tainted blood.
Right.
Whether that be directly with a Nephilim or just the descendants, the whole goal and strategy was to taint the bloodline because they knew Christ would be coming from this bloodline. They knew there was something important about the blood. Blood gives life. It says over and over in Genesis to not eat anything with its blood still in it. It's life. That's life.
And the lineage is important.
Yeah,
The emphasis on lineage
100%
is so important.
The seed war.
So then let's go post flood. when his children, I believe it's Shem who disgraces him, and finds Noah drunk, goes and sleeps with his mom and all that, and then Noah curses him.
Yeah.
The thought, and my thought, and everything I've studied and looked at, not that it came through Shem because that's Noah's bloodline, but what you can account for are the wives on the boat.
Yeah.
And the purity within their bloodlines. And then so once Shem gets his curse, I believe it's down through his wife's bloodline that reintroduces the Nephilim back into the world at that point. And if you break down like the actual chromosomal study and the probabilities and all that kind of stuff, it makes sense, right? Like if she's carrying the gene, he's not everyone who comes out is going to be Nephilim, but
Absolutely.
you have the genetic probability
To
carry
somewhere
you're
down the
carrying
line
that
is
gene,
gonna-
whether it manifests or not, you're still carrying that gene. And then if you go into anthropology, they've over the last couple of years discovered, all these different hominoid figures, and they've all interacted and mated with each other, but there's one mystery one that they can't account for. They can find its genetics within the code, but they can't trace it back to anything. And that's modern anthropology. That's not like Christian believer, not some sort of like crazy theory. Like it's proof that there is this mystery genome out there that they're not sure where it started from, nor can they trace it back to any of the known figures, hominoid figures of the day. So it's interesting, and funny because let's go even further down. I was reading this morning, not specific for this, just kind of doing a Bible study.
Yeah.
And I like to dig into the Old Testament and then parallel to the New and do that kind of stuff. But Esau stuck out to me, which of course he's the father of the Canaanites, right? I mean, that's his lineage is the Canaanites and everyone who came from that. But if you look at the physical description of him, he was red-haired, red-haired and extremely hairy, to the point that when Jacob's deceiving, his mom puts fur over him. Like I've known some hairy people in my day, but none of them have been animalistic. Scripture specifically says, I think it's a camel, fur over him. So if he needs to fill that hairy and furry, I was like, is that Sasquatch? Like, is this our first documentation of Bigfoot? Like,
that's true, man.
If
that's
you're having to deceive to that point, and then it goes down that he already has married into the Hittite, which is another fallen one. And Jacob, or Isaac specifically says, don't. Like Jacob cannot have a wife unless it's from this bloodline. And he sends him out to marry specifically Laban's daughter, Rachel, which is his mom's brother's kid.
Shout out to Rachel.
Appreciate you, Rachel. Good looking out. And then Esau, in an effort to try to get back in his dad's good graces, and this is the craziest part to me, I'd never connected it, goes to Ishmael. And he weds one of Ishmael's daughters, which if you go down the lineage of Ishmael, I mean, it's crazy to me, the parallels, but then you're branching into the entire religion of Islam.
Yeah.
Because their foundational belief, the whole reason they are opposed to till the death to Christianity is because they believe Isaac stole Ishmael's blessing.
Right.
That's the foundation of their belief, is that it all separates and deviates there.
Right.
So
we talked about in our Israel episode.
Yeah, it's so weird to me to see how it all ties back in. And like, as much as you try to disprove or find any fault in scripture or find somewhere where it doesn't add up, like the more you dig, you're like,
you're like, son of a gun.
Right? Like, got me again. So it's crazy to me that you see this lineage. And I'm not saying that Islam and Nephilim are the same thing. I don't mean that by any means. I just mean there becomes a clear delineation between like God's chosen, the elect, and then those opposed.
Yeah.
And then when you go back and search through that scripture, you realize why it's like to the death. Like this is like the foundational stuff where they feel wronged or feel like, which goes to New Testament, like their works, what they're doing should inherit the blessing, not just a bloodline, which we talked about the blood pre-show, how important blood is to it, or the lineage or the heritage of it, which anyone who's read the Old Testament knows how much God cares about showing the lineage of his line, like to the point where like, I'm going to skip these 4 pages of names. But if you're willing to go in and look at those names and what those names stand for, dude, it will blow your mind as you start looking like, and names matter. I mean, that's scriptural too, that, we prayed over. I'm mad my parents named me Jacob. I'm like, y'all call me a liar? Like, this is what we're doing? Like, y'all could have named me Israel or something else, but there's an old guy at church when I grew up. He'd be like, oh, you heel grabber? And I'm like, this.
That's funny.
That was funny the first time.
Where's Esau?
Time, right? Like, But, with our daughter, we specifically prayed over her name and came to Selah, which means to rest, pause, and worship. We prayed and waited for 8 years for God's fulfillment of a promise that we would have a healthy kid after miscarriages.
That's awesome.
And so we named her very specific for us. We had to rest and pause and trust him. And then
that's awesome.
She is a sign of our worship and grateful to him. She's a modern day, how I view it, like a modern day altar. Like, we met God here. How could I not commemorate this moment?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's kind of how we decided to name the boys as well. Just we wanted meaning to their names.
It
and
matters,
more so their middle names too.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor put emphasis on the middle names. Like Ezra is one of the middle names. Asher is another middle name. So there's meaning to them and then their life story.
Yeah.
And that will push.
It's prophetic.
Is one of them
truly
Nehemiah?
is.
You didn't Nehemiah?
No.
Okay.
And that's not to say if you
That's
didn't
sad.
pray over your kids' names or do anything like that, that you've done anything wrong.
Sure.
Obviously, my parents called me a liar at birth, and I turned out all right, I guess. I don't know. I had my struggles, but, I'm not mad at them for naming me Jacob. I was named after Jacob Marley, not in even the Bible anyway. So my dad was watching A Christmas Carol with my brother and was like, "What about Jacob?" Like, you lied. You told me I was
Jacob
named after
Marley?
a Bible character.
Is that
They meant
Bob
named
Marley?
after a
They meant
ghost.
gnarly.
Is that
Jacob
Bob
Gnarly.
Marley's brother?
It could be.
It might be. He's in heaven. We'll see Bob Marley up there.
The ganja.
You think so?
Yeah, he was born again Christian when he passed.
Mhm.
Oh, really?
100%.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought he wasn't Rastafarian.
Nope. Yeah,
So
look it up.
he's-
He'll call himself. Yeah, he's a Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Alice
looked that
Cooper,
up.
dude.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Steven
Rastafarian.
Tyler.
Yeah,
Last
no,
time.
no. Bob Marley was he got away from dabbling in the Rastafarianism and gave his life to Christ.
He's like, nah, dude, Mayor Selassie ain't Jesus, bro. He ain't Jesus.
I don't practice Santeria. I ain't got no Christ. No, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's crazy, dude. I did not know that.
Well, now you know.
Well, to finish the
Now I know.
scripture, also,
We didn't make it through the scripture.
also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men,
that means what you think it does.
Yeah. I
they
was about to say.
bare children to them, and the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Now, there's a lot of different translations. I believe this is the old King Jimmy right here, because
Jimbo.
who speaks renown? Who uses that terminology anymore?
Somebody who feels
But
special.
these were mighty men, mighty warriors, basically.
Yeah.
My question, if we're going to talk about the Nephilim being gigantic offspring, and when it says the sons of God, if we can elaborate, because that is interpreted as fallen angels. Now, why would the Bible equate angels that have fallen from grace to being sons of God?
Because they were created by God. Adam
Okay.
Adam was the only human creation to be a son of God because he was made direct by God. And if you go down and break through the Hebrew in the Old Testament, you'll see time and time again, it's a very lazy and sloppy translation, in my opinion, to go to like the Sethite view and be like, well, no, he's obviously talking about Seth and their other child and da-da-da, because that doesn't fit up with any other of the Hebrew in the Old Testament. Time and time again, it refers to the sons of God. It's directly referring to either angels, Elohim, little g gods,
Yeah.
but never Adonai, our Yahweh.
Right.
Which, crazy enough, even his name itself makes you breathe to say it, and it's the breath of life. It's the only one they have to inhale, exhale Yahweh, which is pretty cool. But no, yeah, I mean, that's a great question. But, if you do the study, if you do the work and you look into it, he's pretty clear as to who he's talking about with the sons of God. And to go back into like Esau and that story and stuff, like then they start referring to, we're being fearful of the sons of Heth. And
Yeah.
you go in and that's the son of Canaan, which would be that fallen bloodline. So it's a direct lineage to whoever created you. And so, like I said, outside of Adam, there was no son of God within Old Testament or creation.
Gotcha.
That's the only person he made. And that's pretty clear through text if you read the traditional Hebrew and study it out and look into it, which is pretty cool and fascinating. To me, I love that aspect of it. I think it's pretty neat.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. How would an angel have sex with a human woman?
How would they do it? Explain.
Well, I have
I don't. Oh, go.
Theory
go.
time.
Go. Theory time.
I love it.
theory time. My theory is they actually had to inhabit or possess a human being. And that seed
Avatar.
was that seed, their blood, for some reason, because the demon or the fallen angel was inside of a human that was possessed, when they had sex with a woman, that demon seed was actually integrated with the human seed, which caused them to.
Interesting.
But that's my theory.
Okay, I like that one.
But y'all got some other ones?
Shapeshifter.
Oh,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah, my theory is shapeshifter. Yeah,
Oh, what? Well, tell me about that.
that they can shapeshift into anything.
Okay, so so what do you think their actual appearance looked like?
Well, supposedly there's angels today
Yeah, I've heard of that.
that you see out.
Unaware.
Yeah, that you see out on the street.
My granny,
Oh yes,
God bless her, she was an angel. She was a saint.
dude.
But legitimately,
Stop.
So
That's good.
yeah, no, I mean, I think they can do some of the shape-shifting abilities, but I also think there were different classes of angels who fell because
Okay.
God's a God of order,
Yeah.
and we know
Yeah, and that is
Lucifer's
actually
position,
mentioned in the book of Enoch.
What do you
Yeah.
mean
The
classes?
different classes.
different ranks, and each rank, like cherubim, seraphim, whatever, each had different aesthetics, different makeups
Different
on how
forms.
they 100%. So if 200 fell and they're of different classes and creations, then I don't know, maybe one of them could progenate with humanity. But I also know it's pretty open as far as their knowledge of genetic manipulation and their ability to create. They can't create from nothing. They're not God.
They have to
can't
take
provide.
So they have
God
to pervert
has.
it.
They have to counterfeit and pervert
Yes.
what
Yeah,
God's
yeah,
already
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Which again, you go back to the fall. That's why Scripture specifically states he saw it and it broke his heart what was happening to humanity, but he couldn't get involved until the cries came out to him. And that's
Right.
also why he couldn't punish or do anything to the watchers who came down and created the Nephilim, because they did it within God's covenant construct that he created for humanity, that it would be a man and a woman. There'd be dowry given, you know what I mean? So like they did everything they were supposed to do, almost trying to be like, ha, got you, God. We did it within your framework, and still were able to pollute it. Obviously the trap door being the fact that once they call on his name, he can get back involved again, right? And start trying to clean that up.
right?
But, somewhere between the shape-shifting, the genetic manipulation, we're never there, so we won't really know till the end time.
Well,
but
Yeah. So we got shape shifting. I'm saying human possession, but we also have biblical record. And Joey, you talked about this. Sometimes when people would show up, when they mention angels and they fear not, they would usually give their name.
Yeah.
I'm Michael. I'm Gabriel. I'm whoever.
Yeah.
If they didn't give their name and they just said fear not, or sometimes they would, how did you put it? They would worship.
No, you're talking about
well,
something totally different, dude.
No,
You're talking about,
I'm talking about when people saw somebody that thought we think as angels as actually was Jesus.
Yeah, you're talking about Jesus in the Old Testament.
Yes.
When he shows up and he's like, worship the ground you stand on. This is holy ground.
I love it when
Like
he shows up.
Yeah, dude.
The
it's
angel of the
awesome.
Lord.
Yeah,
Right.
Yahweh, angel of the Lord. Anytime that
is
shows up,
Jesus.
was Jesus.
Mhm.
So he was the only one that would allow people to worship him. Every other one was like, hey, don't do that.
Don't do that. And here's my name.
Yeah.
And I actually have identification, but he never identified himself other than what people
Because he had to keep
thought.
it a secret
Yeah,
to
but
keep
what
the
people
bloodline.
thought this was like angel of the Lord.
Yeah.
So when
makes
that happened, so we have actual physical angels that are in another dimension, cross dimensions, show up here, and I don't,
Well, even so, back to, let's say, Sodom and Gomorrah, the two angels that showed up then,
yeah,
they were like man.
Enough to the point that they wanted to
that's
be
true.
taken out and raping
Yeah.
the town circle.
that's what I was going to get
Shapeshifters.
to. So
Mm.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they actually, when they cross dimensions, they actually can shapeshift into looking like humans.
Right.
Yep.
And maybe they have all the intricate details of what a human anatomy can do, hence the sexual part of woman.
Hold on. In Genesis, is it symbolic when Genesis recounts Satan as a serpent? Was he shape-shifting? Was it symbolic? Was it literal? Who knows?
Scholars have,
But he is
Yeah.
an angel, fallen angel. Could he have shape-shifted to an animal?
Some
Especially because Scripture says that he was beautiful. that he was a beautiful angel. He was the most magnificent, the most glorious in heaven. He had that seat perfectly under
he
God,
was,
but not God.
Yes.
But they said he was a specimen. He was
a high-ranking angel.
gorgeous.
And that would
snakes ain't pretty like that.
and that would bring us to the conclusion that also maybe, I'm just putting this out there, lizards could also be Nephilim as well. Lizard people
And
is what I'm
cats.
saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got the
Potential.
The Akanani.
Yes.
And
So when we have these theories about lizard people and so forth, I mean, they can all be traced to maybe Nephilim. I don't know.
I think so.
Well, yeah. I mean,
yeah, because it's a demonic entity. I mean, that's
and it
kinda
doesn't.
what we talked
Yeah.
about.
So what you're saying doesn't necessarily have to be some
No.
giant named Goliath.
No.
Somehow the blood is mixed and messed up this specimen that God created, and it's turned out to be this.
Well, like in the
like a
game
lizard person.
God of War,
Oh,
there's a race of
here we
giants.
go.
And he says the word giant doesn't necessarily mean someone who's big.
Mm-mm.
It just means a bloodline, dude.
Yep.
That's all it is.
Yeah, so giant didn't come
Kratos?
from that
Is that
terminology until
His
the Septuagint. That the Greek translation was the first one to turn Nephilim to the word giant.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, it carried, as Joe was saying, a different meaning as far as like the bloodline and genetics. And again, God's so big on genetics,
Yeah.
right? Or like lineage. So it played into a specific class, not a stature.
Okay,
or
I'm
a
going with
physical build.
I'm going with that now.
Shapeshifter?
I don't think there was human possession now. Now that
Shapeshifter.
we've
Yeah, it was a
we've
dumb
fleshed that
idea.
out.
Dumb idea, dude.
But can they? But,
just kidding.
but,
Well,
but
it's a
can they
spiritual,
possess?
It's a spiritual entity, and spiritual entities can inhabit an open avatar. I mean, that's what they do to this day with all the cults and all the
Right.
Maybe the
pagan
lower
practices
levels,
and
lower level demons have to do that to do anything. But we're talking about high level
Fallen angels.
that are actually having sex with women. They're not low level to go and inhabit a body and have sex.
No, they
They're
don't
like,
need to
you know, I'm shape shifting.
Yeah.
Boom.
Lizard.
It's
Yeah,
game
lizard.
time. And some, I
Oh,
think
wow.
it was.
so were the babies and eggs?
Oh,
That's-
what?
Aren't all babies eggs at one time?
At one point, so did
wait,
it come
whoa,
out?
whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh.
Is that the pain in childbirth?
Let's just think for a second. There's an egg. There's the sperm.
There's the sperm donor.
Then there's the egg. Delicious.
So some
the placenta,
translations.
they come out in a sac. Like children are born within a sac.
Yeah,
so
that's
I wonder
true.
if there's any difference in like. Now I'm just squirreling, guys.
We're out in.
Like if the placenta is different within those cases to be able to inhabit and hold and sustain a hybrid creature.
Wow.
Damn.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm thinking out loud now. Sorry. I'm just
Oh,
like, man, that
man.
blows my mind though.
So some translations of it's actually Dr. Michael Heiser, the guy you quote all the time. So I was reading
R.I.P..
The book of, I got the Logos app,
It's the best.
and the serpent can be translated as a snake, obviously.
Okay.
Or sometimes you could even translate it as like the word magician or like magic user or something like that.
Shapeshifter.
Or a shapeshifter. Yeah, seriously. I mean, obviously we're stretching there, but something to
I
think
don't know.
about.
Are we though?
I don't know. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It kind of fits in
Yeah, I
because
think
it
so.
could have been a human being that,
Are you talking about the first temptation?
I'm talking about Satan.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
But I mean, the precedent's set. You look at most Native American cultures today, and they still believe and have the shapeshifters within their belief
Yeah.
system, and that they believe to be active, present, and working still to this day. I mean, what is it? Skinwalker Ranch. There have been
I
known
need to
be
watch that.
Shapeshifter.
known to be a number of shapeshifters who have been in that area. They believe that's a portal. There's certain portals and spiritual gates throughout the world. That being a location and a place of one of them, which is why
What's
you see
going
all the
on? So what are they
phenomenon.
finding on that show? Just because I haven't delved into that show. What are they
A
finding?
lot of
there?
paranormal
A
activity.
lot of weird stuff that science can't explain and
Yeah.
that just doesn't make sense.
Compasses not working.
Yeah.
Yes.
Loss of polarity, supernatural lights with no starting point. They're just appearing and showing up,
electronics not working.
which fits in with this
With-
Miami thing. Why
right.
no one
Typical.
can get a good picture because you
Right.
get too close, your electronics quit working because
Yeah.
it's a supernatural
Oh.
being. But they've got a lot. They have more instances of paranormal activity, including entities, at that Skinwalker Ranch than almost anywhere else in North
A lot of
America.
shapeshifting.
Is that you think that's on a ley line? That ranch?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Makes
Wouldn't
sense.
surprise me.
What's weird is who named it Skinwalker.
Yeah, that I don't know.
Was it before the weirdness or after?
maybe Luke's
Because
brother.
Skinwalker Ranch already sounds weird. Like something's weird going on.
So the craziest part is before this current owner even bought it, it was owned by a government entity that went and did a lot of paranormal research. And at the end of all of their studies and everything, before they sold it, they refused to disclose their findings.
Oh,
Which is why this other owner came in and was like, dude, you got everybody worked up. We want to know what's going on here now. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, the government has actively had teams and people present doing research and activity at Skinwalker Ranch. And just like everything else with our wonderful government, refuses to disclose what that information and those findings were.
gotta love it.
But you can't discount its location and proximity towards like Area 51 and everything else out there, right? Like, that's just kind of a hot spot. Like that whole place out there is insane to me.
Rachel Perry said we should do a actual episode on Skinwalker.
It'd be a
I
full
think we
episode.
should.
There's enough there.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
But
going
a lot
back into
of
history.
a lot of pagan tribes, a lot of pagan cultures, they have this mythological shapeshifter creature in their kind of their lore.
Their pantheon.
Yeah. So it's not far
not unheard
fetched.
of.
Yeah, it's not far fetched to make that assumption that these angels can shapeshift.
So if you go,
I like that theory.
well, if you go like, you know, they always say, not they always, but it's there's sin and there's iniquity, right? The iniquity is the weight of your sin, what's owed to you for sinning against God. The sin is the action of itself. So even with like the cults and a lot of those secret societies, the reason it's like ritualistic abuse and stuff like that is because they're building up that iniquity to then use it as a power source. And that's kind of how it works with the blood. So you've got the blood and the natural for the life, and you've got the iniquity and the supernatural is basically like their superpower to contact the other world and have those conversations and then have some sort of back and forth and opportunity to that is because they've got enough currency that speaks the kind of cash that speaks in their world to be able to be there and have that location and that proximity to the entity. And there's been a number of locations in the United States that they've found. I believe the Rockefeller's house being one of them.
Oh, that makes sense.
That was bought
wow.
specifically because it was over an old sacrificial altar.
Are you serious?
100%. Yeah, because
I-
you're
I-
looking thousands of years ago, right? Like
I'm pretty sure
everything's
that's right.
10, 15 layers of feet under now because we've had civilizations. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It just
sure.
buries
Yeah.
itself. And so you've got to know either it's been revealed to you by an entity, something, or it's been passed down through your family. But the creepy part is they do know where those are, and they've gone through a lot of those secret families and bought out almost all of those locations that specifically sit over an old sacrificial altar or site.
Wow.
Because the iniquity that's been done there
Yeah.
is still heavy.
Yeah.
It's still heavy. So in my mind, as we're talking about this, I feel like potentially if you were to look into Skinwalker, I mean, there'd be some likelihood and some opportunity that way back in the day, there's been some stuff that's taken place there that's allowed the opportunity for this portal or
gotcha.
this access
And that's that
point
spiritual
to be there.
weight that you're talking
100%,
about.
yeah. Which praise God, you know, Scripture says not only does He want to cancel our sin, but He wants to bear the weight of our iniquity.
Right.
Which, you know, just to bring it back to the Bible, that's the glory of God and part of the majesty and awe and the fact that He is the big G God is that he can not only erase your sin and forgive it, but He can cancel what's due to you and your family and your genetics and your bloodline. Like that iniquity carries. You know, I think He says in 2 Kings that children will no longer carry the weight of their father's sins
Mm-hmm.
in the natural, but the supernatural and dealing with the iniquity side of it. You know what I mean? You're building up
Right.
It's that
this
generational
disgust towards
curses.
God 100%.
Yeah. When
All it takes is one to pray for forgiveness and to turn, right?
it's
And God's
done.
like, it's wiped. But if you don't know any better and it's
Yeah.
just been going on for thousands of years, and you're just like, I just got to get out of here, and you go live your life somewhere else and save it, but you've done nothing with
those are
this
the
stored up
generational
iniquity.
curses.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about this last episode. I was talking about it with Joey. About just how we understand the crucifixion and the cross and what Jesus did, the salvation through Jesus and His blood to a certain extent, but we don't know the true depth of what it's done in so many facets.
Oh,
like
yeah.
like that one, the iniquity, like breaking the curse of the laws, stuff like that. That there's so many things that we making the world right, making the earth become, you know, to a place where it's whole again. There's so many things, like the rocks, the animals cry out, right?
Yeah.
There's so much stuff that
even with the veil tearing and the Holy of Holies that opened
Bro,
up,
we just
opened
talked
up
about
the
that.
earthly with the supernatural. God's like, this is no longer separate.
Right.
Like,
We just
if I
talked
can
about-
dwell in you, then there's some things that could dwell in
Yeah.
you too, because I'm allowing this supernatural access at this point.
Yeah, it's open now.
It used
You're
to be
welcome
like through sacrifice to Moloch and like blood and all that you had access to these entities and stuff. But you know, when the veil's torn,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that becomes open. And
Yeah.
if demonic side has shown anything through the course of time and history, it's, you know, they'll try to capitalize to counterfeit what God's trying to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything.
Because it's an option to us. It's not, it's a
Yeah.
promise and an option on his, or a promise on his end, but it's an option to us to receive and walk in that. So if he opens it for creation, then it can be misconstrued for
going
counterfeit.
back to the shape shifting, and that, I guess that would make, for me, that makes more sense, because like you said, whenever we see something that's quote unquote an alien or demonic, we can't visually see it, and it
Shout
looks,
out blurry creatures.
yeah, shout out blurry creatures.
Yeah, shout out.
It's always
last week.
it's always changing. It's always changing shape, whether it be in the natural or the physical. Maybe we can't understand it through the lens of the natural eye, but when we do go back and look at the recordings of, let's just say, what happened in Miami this past week, it looks like a blurry creature.
Yeah.
You know,
Not human.
not human. Remember back in March, or I think it was March or April, when that kid, that Hispanic family
In the backyard.
in the
Vegas.
backyard, and everyone's like, "Oh, why are these aliens being videotaped in just 420p?
Yeah.
Why
We
can't
got 4K.
Yeah,
Yeah,
why
what-
can't we see it?
Yeah, my flip phone.
Well, that goes back to
You're
what
not
you were saying.
supposed to.
Like in Skinwalker Ranch, where these entities are messing with the electronics.
There's anomalies that
Yes.
follow
Yeah.
and protect them, right? Because they have access to the supernatural that we don't. So
Yeah.
they can
Oh,
operate.
that
in
would
a
make
way
sense
that we
why the
can't.
cameras were failing.
Right.
Yeah,
So on the first I heard of that, I was like, see, that's convenient. The cameras are failing, blah blah blah. Something's
it's
going on.
always
It's a
they're always
cover-up.
failing.
But now you're saying that it's like that's why it's failing.
But doesn't it make sense though for why the dark side would want it to be like that? Because if you were to be able to show someone a clear-cut
truth.
picture of a demon,
They don't want you to know the truth.
bro, it's black and white at that point. Like, you can't tell me this isn't a demon. Oh, I'm following the Lord. You know what I mean? But like, if you see a blurry one, it's easy
Yeah,
to be
like-
discounted while also desensitizing society
And
to what they're
deception
seeing.
is deception. It's taking the truth and just twisting it just enough,
Just
so
a little
you-
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got one way to win through Christ. He's got 99 against us, because any wrong step, anything that breaks our proximity and relationship with Christ and intimacy is a win for the devil, right? Like, not everyone has to fall and backslide. And some of the worst people, and Scripture says that they're wolves in sheep's clothing, not wolves in shepherd's clothing.
right.
They're not always portraying
they're
themselves
part
as
of
a
us.
pastor. They're a part of the church.
They're part of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're with us.
And they're tearing us down internally from
On
the
the ground.
inside out,
Yeah.
right? Like, and so I think this deception, to what Jason was saying, falls directly into that. It's, if you have out and out, flat out deception, where it's like a bold-faced lie, you're going to get called on it. But if you can skew the truth to affect somebody's belief system,
yeah.
Yeah.
especially when you've already set the construct of education and thinking and what's acceptable and allowable on the other end, like cosmology or anything else, if you don't believe this and this, you're obviously a liar, and everybody's going to know it. That doesn't mean it's not true. That just means you don't fit in with the construct that they've created for us to have
Right.
acceptable beliefs inside of
right.
And also saying, like, the Nephilim shape shifting, going back to that, and then being amongst us today, and being hidden in plain sight. That would go back to the deception, like just enough out in plain sight for you to believe that they don't exist, and for them to actually operate today.
I believe it was Dr. Laura Sanger, who's been on Blurry Creatures a couple times, who wrote.
Should get her on.
Yeah, she's phenomenal, man. She talks a lot about frequencies and the impact of that, and which of you guys have never, I think you guys did, right? You talked about frequencies.
Jason, make that happen.
Dude, y'all should do an episode on frequencies.
Yeah. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, but I believe it's her, and I apologize if I'm attributing this to someone else, but she wrote a book on the characteristics of the Nephilim, and as they're hiding themselves, how you can still tell through certain features, attributes, personality traits that these people have come from a fallen world. And she goes back through history and lists a few, and a lot of obvious ones, like Hitler and stuff like that. But she said it's a solid overprint and overlay to be able to place over leaders and stuff today to see, what traits am I following? Not just a person, but what traits, what beliefs, what attributes, like, are these all from God, or is it a misconstrued truth or a misconstrued blessing on what it should be? And so it's fascinating, and I don't want to misspeak on any of that, so I'm not going to throw out any random ones. But if you guys get a chance, I would look into.
You mean
that.
like actual people that have these traits?
Mm-hmm. She breaks down the characteristics,
What?
how and why she got there through Scripture. Everything goes back to the Lord, and then she overlays those on some people back through society to see, like, if we were to apply these Nephilim
put that on
traits and
top,
characteristics over this person, do they still fit the bill? Do they still think are they still who you think they are?
Right.
Some are pretty
Joe
obvious. Some are massively obvious, right? And then some of them you're like,
just throwing a name out.
Do I just hate the guy, or is he demonic? You know what I mean? Like,
right. I've always struggled with that.
Because there's some people, I just flat out I don't care for. Right? Like, I love him and I try to view him how Christ does, and he has to work hard in my heart sometimes for some people. But then there's other people where my spirit just gets unsettled when, like, I'm around or I see him. Like, I don't have a sense of peace. It's not just a feeling or emotion like, dude, you're a tool, go away. But it's like, man, there's something about you. Like, I'm not comfortable around you. I don't feel at peace. I feel very unsettled when you're speaking or when you're around. And that's not to say it's never to be used as an excuse to mistreat anybody, because even if that was a Nephilim right in front of you, you still, God says to respect and honor authority till the day they tell you will go against my calling. So pay your taxes. Don't kill. You know what I mean? Like, do everything you're supposed to do and give them not a reason to come back and say, Christians don't do this. Right. So it's not an excuse to treat anyone different, but for you, your family, your spirit, and the way you can lead your family, it's very important as to what they're consuming and what you allow into your house, because whatever spiritual tone you set is going to carry through the family. We all know as men, like, it's hard to come home in a bad mood and try to allow yourself to work through that bad mood around your family, because then they all get in a bad mood too, because it's like, well, dad's down, so then we all kind of...
it jumps on everyone.
Yeah, it's whatever tone you set for the family. The men are the thermostats, and the family's the thermometer. Like, if you're setting yours low or high, they're going to follow you there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's it's falling in line with that same thought process of, man, if my spirit is that unsettled and not comfortable with this, I don't want that for my family. Not like you can go out and assassinate anyone, but like you can pull yourself, any kind of investment you may have in your attention, time, money, whatever, away from that.
Yeah.
And so that's something within the last couple of years I've really tried to do. And, without freaking my family out and be like, no, turn that off. Like, hey, can you pause that and let's have a conversation real quick?
Yeah, what are they talking
about?
You know
what I mean? Yeah, like, give me some background. Why are you watching this? What do you like about it? Do you understand what they're telling you? Because my daughter's 6 and she's pretty smart for 6, so she can answer a lot of that. But I can tell when she can't. She's like, I don't know. Like, you're not in trouble, baby. We're just I want you to understand, because we're establishing a belief system in you that's going to carry you far in life. And if I don't take the time to explain to you why we believe what we do, and then provide a counter perspective as far as how they're going to deceive you or try to get you to believe another way,
it's going to be shaky.
Yeah, I'm not doing my job as a father. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Scripture says to raise them to know him, and they shall not depart. That doesn't mean they won't have a rough life, rough patches. I grew up in church and still went to jail for cocaine and marijuana. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've been there. Praise God, I had praying parents who helped through that, but I came back.
Yeah.
And that's something, and again, in me, that's just, I praise God for it. Like, I don't know when, why, how, but I came back.
Yeah.
And so I've got to believe, for any parents who are out there with kids struggling or anything like that, like, there's nothing, if they're struggling, there's very little you can do within your own power and might to get them back.
So you
can pray over them.
We have somebody on the live chat that wants to know, what is a Nephilim? So would you describe?
Yeah. Okay.
Give a description, depiction of what a Nephilim.
Thanks for that, Jason.
Is.
So you go all the way back when the Watchers fell. Those are the fallen angels. They're Watchers. Nephilim and Watchers. The Nephilim are not the fallen angels.
Correct.
Right.
The Watchers are the fallen angels. The Watchers are who came down and mated with humanity, and those demigods are then the Nephilim. The creations of offspring between Watchers and humans create Nephilim. So if you go into Scripture, and it's crazy because you look at Greek mythology, those Watchers are all locked up in Tartarus and hell, the deepest of the deepest pits.
That's what it's, The book of
they're
Enoch,
locked up and done. The Nephilim now are the disembodied spirits roaming the earth who can then inhabit and use people as avatars and are still worshipped and revered in some instances.
Yeah.
And like I said, you could refer to Greek mythology, just like when the gods, who would be the Nephilim, overtook the Titans and locked them up in Tartarus. They're taking credit for what God did and righting that wrong.
That mythology.
And then placing
Yeah.
themselves at the head.
Gotcha.
Right? Does that make sense? Yeah, like they're making themselves gods, but again, just like Gilgamesh and the flood, they're providing an alternative perspective to a narrative that we already know. Like, you know, that Gilgamesh makes God the bad guy, and I'm gonna go kill God so he doesn't flood and kill all of us in creation again. Whereas God's like, I had to, because look what y'all were doing.
Yeah.
And if you go into the book of Enoch, like it even says that even the watchers themselves were disgusted at themselves because they thought they were God and control and create a humanity that would prosperous and be good for them and worship them. But all they created was chaos. And God was like, you know, part of your punishment is I can't, like, you guys created these beings. I can't interfere, but I'm going to protect my people. But you guys have to watch your kids, your offspring, all kill each other now because they started warring and battling. It's not like all these Nephilim got along with each other and they were buddies and ran the earth.
Yeah,
we're talking about worst case scenario, like 200 different or whatever many number of civilizations and kingdoms that all wanted to be the most powerful. Like it wasn't, hey, here's your land, here's mine, da da da. They started overtaking each other and bringing destruction, death, immorality across the globe.
Right.
And that's why you see some of these ties, whether you're in Mexico or Cambodia or Egypt. Yeah, it's all pyramids. Like they knew what they were built. It's all from the same thing, but then it was twisted and contorted to worship that specific entity. So I think that's why they all look similar, but that's also why they're different, because it wasn't all one big fallen government or whatever, like one big fallen society that was ruling in cahoots with each other.
Yeah, it wasn't organized
at all. It was every man for himself. Blood is the money, blood is the power, iniquity is the power. And so the watchers are like, God help, like we don't know what we did. Da, da, da. He's like, you're kind of like on your own. That's your punishment.
Yeah.
Like I can't get involved in this. Yeah. He's like, after they all take care of it and the flood and like it's done, I'm gonna lock you guys up till I come back. And then I'm gonna permanently lock you up with all of your fallen offspring and everyone else that you deceived to believe in you.
Right. And it was the Tower of Babel. Was that pre-flood?
Post-flood.
Okay, so we had Nimrod,
who many scholars today believe that Nimrod and Gilgamesh are the same person.
Right. They have intertwined those names.
The reason he's not called Gilgamesh in the Bible is to not provide a name or context or any potential to worship him. Nimrod literally means one against God.
So I guess whatever Hebrew word was in the Torah. Whatever
just
Hebrew
like
word was in the Torah.
They give him a title. They don't name him because you have power in a name, like we talked about, right? So they're not going to give you the satisfaction of the name, but they're going to give you a title, so you can be referred to.
What was his description? He was the greatest warrior,
a mighty warrior on earth who made himself
the greatest one ever.
Mm-hmm. And it says that he made himself like the Nephilim,
So he was an offspring of one of the Watchers, you think?
Either that or genetic manipulation. I think he tried to sacrifice and store up enough iniquity and sell pieces of himself to have that spiritual inheritance of the Nephilim. Yeah.
Gotcha.
The last podcast.
He comes through, Shem's bloodline. I mean, it all fits within
that.
The
Shem. Yeah, you're right.
So, which,
Shem.
again, if you it's all theory, but if you believe that bloodline, that tainted bloodline and the ability for the Nephilim to repopulate the earth came through him, the curse on Noah's side, and then his wife.
Yeah.
They're the ones who bore almost all of the offspring that had giants. There's references, but nothing strong on Japheth's side. But then Ham, of course, the bloodline Jesus came through, and it's crystal clear, clean. You can't trace a single race of fallen offspring to that one specific bloodline.
So you just referenced the pyramids in, like, say, Mexico and Egypt. We are going to do an episode on the pyramids in the future, but I remember on the last podcast when we did the Nephilim, you talked about technology and that some believe that the reason why we have the pyramids and they're so accurate and precise and pristine in their mathematical structures, perfect, and
on Earth,
on Earth, and also aligned with the stars and whatnot. And just the whole engineering in itself we can't explain it today.
And it can't be done today.
So you had said last episode that information, that technology, that knowledge was given to the people from the Nephilim.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense because of
from the Watchers themselves.
From the Watchers.
Yeah, it was part of the exchange for brides. We'll give you knowledge on how to build weapons, how to do whatever, to advance civilization. Obviously, none of it was, hey, we're gonna give you knowledge to become decrepit counterfeits of what you're supposed to be. They sold it. Like they sold it. We are gonna make you. It's just like the tree all over again. The devil's deception was that God's holding something back from you that would make you better.
Yeah.
That's what Eve bid on. Like, wait, God doesn't want me to know this, but you're telling me if I know this, I'll be godlike. Like, why would he not give that to me? That would be better.
That's crazy too, because this goes along with, so I've talked to you guys a couple times about like the modern science discoveries and stuff, like Alan Turing, the way that he invented the computer, the person who came up with the like simulation theory. None of those people accredit those findings to themselves. They've always say that they were given that information by some spiritual entity every single time.
Really?
Yep.
And what is it? Is it the green tablets of Thoth, I think, or whatever? Supposedly, and within the narrative and the belief structure on Nimrod's side, Gilgamesh's side, he found tablets of old that were created and established, which... oh gosh, I want to say it's the same location they're studying right now. What's that old monolithic one they think is the oldest in the world? Göbekli Tepe, I think.
Never heard of it.
Look it up. So supposedly, and that's why no one's allowed to take pictures of certain areas and it's blocked. All the knowledge and the information of the Watchers were stored there for post-flood, so they could come back to it. And so Nimrod found that, and then reestablished and brought back the ways of old. So that's how it was able to bring that knowledge back post to still be working towards it. But obviously you're dealing with knowledge and not the actual entities and beings. So they may know of the pyramids and know their importance and all of that, but that doesn't mean they could go out and duplicate and then rebuild these pyramids because they don't have the same power. But you can still operate within the knowledge and continue to distort and tear up the bloodline and do all of that, even if you don't have the same physical capabilities as those entities once had. And so if you look in a lot of those other religions, there comes a point post-flood where the knowledge was reintroduced. And typically it's found somewhere on like a physical location or a tablet that's been hidden or stowed away or something. I don't fall into I think it's an old rabbinic belief that like Og hung to the side of the boat the whole time and survived the flood that way.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm
one.
like, that one seems weird. Like, I'm pretty sure God would like something out of the water would just eliminate that, or maybe just brush up by a mountain. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe Noah would know. Maybe Og knocked every day. I'm sorry, can I come in? No. Like, and if he could hang to the side, why couldn't he climb to the top and get in if he's a giant who's big and strong? But anyway.
Yeah, right.
So I truly think it's a bloodline thing. Yeah. I truly do.
Yeah, it was already introduced, and then, like you said,
we have dormant genes, right? Like when my dad passed away last year, cancer's never been in my family. We never really had to deal with it. Then my dad was diagnosed and ended up passing. And unbeknownst to us at the time, he did a genetic test to see, where it came from, whatever, in hopes to tell us to prepare the family. And I would have been better not knowing, if I'm honest. But it turns out our family carries this rare mutated gene that opens the door to pancreatic cancer, colon cancer, and a few other ones. But it's like a specific kind of cancer within those cancers, like a different one. And you have to have this certain gene to where you can get it or you're more likely for it. And like I said, cancer had never been a thing in our family at all. And then we found out this. And I'm like, man, we've had this dormant gene in our family. I all the way back to great-grandparents and all that. I never dealt with cancer at all in my life. And then pop, like it just pops off.
Yeah.
So why could it not be the same thing if they had dormant genes through the bloodlines? Maybe it was quiet for a civilization or two, and then boom, they start popping off again.
It had
right?
to be,
like
Goliath and his brothers. I mean,
four
come on,
brothers,
where do you think
brothers?
it came from?
There were actually 2 Goliaths in the Bible too. If you look, there's another instance where it talks about another one, and it's not.
I
him.
think,
but just to say on that,
I was
just gonna say that's why in the Old Testament, anytime God sent like Joshua and Caleb or Moses or anyone. Like people are like, oh, God's bloodthirsty. He's no better than anyone else. He tells you to kill men, women, and children and animals. Like that's why.
Wipe them out.
There is not a single pure, clean bloodline within this civilization, this group, the only thing you can do is to wipe them all out. Man, women, child, and livestock.
Amalekites.
Do not take a single spoil of the war. And that's why he gets so daggum mad at King Saul.
Yeah.
Saul allowed some to stay. He's like, yeah, but look how good these sheep are.
Yeah, I took the good stuff.
Yeah, for
Aren't
you,
you
God,
proud of me?
for you.
Aren't you proud of me?
We were gonna sacrifice it to you, God. And he's like, dude, this is so much bigger than you.
Yeah.
Like you have no idea what you just did. You know what I mean? Like, so if you go into the Old Testament and you see those instances, that's why our God is a loving God. He's doing it to protect his creation and humanity in a way that we'll never understand because people like to have their own knowledge. You know, we struggle with it at times too, even as believers. Like, you can wait for God's promise or wait for it to be revealed, or you can go try to pursue it along the way. And almost every time when you pursue it ahead of his timing, the blessing is never what it was supposed to be. You get a percentage of what it was supposed to be for yourself.
You think like, okay, so to pivot, and we're about to open the phone lines, by the way. To pivot,
I feel like we just started.
I know to pivot on what you just said about people making you feel uncomfortable and there's something just not there. Is it possible that, because if you think about the whole Nephilim giant thing, it's almost like that model didn't work because it stood out. It was different. That model didn't work. Do you think over time
it was too obvious?
Well,
yes.
Everything was bigger back then. Like even the animals,
over
right?
time, somebody, maybe a Nephilim offspring, was like, you know what? We need to taper down this. We need to blend in a little more.
If we want to survive, we have to lay low and blend in.
Because if you think about it, was the lineage of the Christ pure?
Absolutely.
Yep. All the
Okay,
way through.
so
that's why, and that's again, you
that
go back
was
to the lineage in the
protected.
Bible. That's why he shows that all the way back.
That was protected. So what's the end game now that we made it past that?
To disrupt the bloodline to the point that there are no redeemable people on the earth. That's their whole goal. That's their whole goal. That is to disrupt and distort the bloodline to where there's not a single soul on the body that either doesn't bear the weight of sin and iniquity or is born outright without a pure bloodline.
I disagree with you. I think the end goal is this, and I'll take it to Revelation.
Okay.
I think the end game is for what they did in the past during Greek mythology times where they wanted to be set up as gods and worshipped. That is coming full circle. And that is why the Antichrist during the Revelation, what does he want to do? He wants to worship.
Yeah, it's all the power. It's all the power play.
He wants peace.
It's these fallen angels, these fallen entities, these demonic figures that want to be worshipped as God.
And yeah,
I agree. No, I 100% agree. It's all a power play. But if you know,
if
you know you're losing, don't
people.
you? Yeah, if you know you're losing, don't you want to take as many people with you as you can?
Kamikazes, baby.
If God has protected this seed for 5,000 years, and you know how much He cares and loves it,
I'm gonna kill all of them.
Whether you're in power or not, you ain't gonna let somebody else win. You don't want to see that's like the definition of evil. Like you'll do whatever you can or whatever it takes to not allow them to be happy. And so they're directly going against God by saying, you know what? Like we fought over this creation forever. I'm just going to kill them all before you can save them all.
Right.
But it all comes, you're 100% right, Jason. It all comes back to power. Satan still wants to be at the top of the throne, and he will fight to do anything to get there.
Okay, we just opened the phone lines. You can call if you've seen a Nephilim or you've dug up a Nephilim.
Or just want to know more about Nephilim.
Don't tell the Smithsonian.
913-717-9979.
What's the number again?
That's 913-717-9979. What's that number?
913-717-9979.
Give us a call. We'll put you on the air, and you can discuss what we're talking about right now. Let's pivot to.
Let me pivot
go ahead.
first.
And then I want to pivot to dig sites that we've.
Okay, yeah.
Let's hit that next.
Okay, cool. This will be a perfect segue. So we were going back to the pyramids because I'm fascinated by the pyramids.
Okay. Me too, man. Me too.
The hieroglyphs that are found in like the Aztec pyramids, the Mayan pyramids, all those things, they show like an alien saucer, something came from the sky down in those two cultures and also in the Egyptian hieroglyphs. That would make more sense that the Nephilim would be, or the Watchers would be a part of that because they're now worshiping that as a god.
100%. which is, I think, why we're being desensitized to aliens and not demons, because we will be more receptive and open to aliens than we would a demon walking around on the face of the earth, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But the
because
devil's
that
not
falls
dumb.
into the whole God and devil thing, and I don't want to deal with that.
And it's just taking the truth just enough to spin it
Yeah.
and pervert it. Oh, no. Oh,
But
no.
I can deal with something that comes from a different universe
Plagiarism.
because I live in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I 100% agree, Jason. And that's the crazy part about it. Like, this deception runs that deep, right? Like, if you're putting a bunch of pictures on the wall as hieroglyphs thousands of years ago, and no one really understands them because we didn't speak the language, either it was 100% like strategy and he nailed it and it was perfect, or they provided themselves different avenues to go as time and humanity developed and grew. You know what I mean? But I think I lean more to the fact that it's the ultimate deception, and this has been the plan all along. And that's why they're working through human rulers to reestablish themselves, you know. And when they asked Jesus in the New Testament, what's it going to look like when you return? He said, it will be as in the days of Noah.
Yeah.
Beware. Don't allow yourself to be deceived.
Yeah, that's scary, bro.
Like, and I feel like the deception isn't just like you follow Satan.
No.
The deception
It's
is
very
anything other than Jesus Christ as our Savior is deceived, and you've fallen for
Which
it.
is why I don't have social media.
And the Bible even says that the deception will be so great that even the elect
Yeah.
will fall.
We'll be
That's-
deceived.
dude.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about, dude.
There are people who have made commitments, promises, and had interactions with entities that we'll never know till the Lord comes back. But if you don't think the supernatural is at play in our current government and our world, go read the book of Daniel.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to see how the interactions take place, why prayer is so important, why the church is so important, why all of this matters, and you're like, that's the supernatural, that's I'm just going to live my life. You're ignorant. Like, we're not called to be quiet and silent and put our heads in the sand. Like,
And ignorant in not in a derogatory, offensive way. Just like you don't know.
Ignorant means you don't know. I'm not
Right.
saying you're
Yeah, yeah,
stupid.
yeah.
That would be knowing and not doing. Then you're stupid.
Yeah.
I'm talking like ignorant. You're
Ignorance
ignorant to the facts.
I have no idea.
Yeah, like, and you know, it's kind of scary, but people go for it, man. Like, it's like the whole cosmology lies and all of that stuff with the New Age and yoga and all that. And I mean, if you're worshiping a star, you're worshiping an entity. Like,
Right.
that's not Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so
You're worshiping the created, not the creator.
mm-hmm.
913-717-9979 is the number if you want to be part of the show. Jacob, talk to us real quick about modern day sites.
What are you guys talking about when you talk about
We
these
have
things?
uncovered skeletons of giants.
Yeah, so there's
Big boys.
that's the crazy part.
thick boys.
Thickies, thick
Two
ones.
Cs.
And it's listed. Most of them either have heavy bones, or the moment the bones were brought up, and it had oxygen on them, they dissolved and just went away. So they're not able to maintain or keep any record of that. But
Oh, gotcha.
I did pull up, just so we had it for this. You know, here's 10 within North America alone. 10 instances. You can look all of these up. What you're going to find in almost every instance is that it was either bought, purchased, taken by the Smithsonian, or it was given back to the tribes through the NAGPRA, which is the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, which then forced anyone who found giant bones on Indian territory to then give it to the tribes.
Yeah.
And then from there, they were allowed to do with what they want. Obviously, you don't see any of those on display or do anything. Sadly, part of me thinks, you know, we literally broke their cultures and made them poor. If the Smithsonian's really that deceiving and in on it, it looks good on the surface to give it back to the tribes, but who's to say they didn't then go behind them and offer sums of money to then take those bones and
that's
still,
true.
because none of them have come back around. You know, I grew up in Lawton, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. It's Comanche Nation territory.
Shout out to Lawton.
Whoop, whoop. Beautiful tribe, beautiful people, like amazing culture. I've been to powwows, you know, I've served alongside of them. I've done emergency management or disaster relief with them. And even in those conversations and going to their museum, you don't see anything like that. There's nothing shown.
Yeah.
You know, and if you look around the Great Plains area, that's where a lot of them were found, mostly East Coast. And then it drives as you go across the United States, it thins out, but they're slowly being forced out and killed everywhere they go. And that starts all the way back from when Joshua and Caleb kicked them out. You know, there's a trail that archaeologists can find, anthropologists that show moving up through Europe and then directly over into the United States. And the majority of tribes will tell you, that they weren't the first ones here. There were races of giants that they had to fight and take this land. That's why they feel like it's theirs. Like, we didn't just take it and claim it. Like, we fought for this. Like, we spilled blood for this. This is our land. I totally get it. I agree. But, it's the historical aspect of the fact that they had to fight the giants. So they were present and active in here. And if you're a race or a civilization that's dying and you can't stand and fight anymore, wouldn't you try to run to survive? And so that's what they did, started working their way across the United States. And it's crazy because you can see the path, like, it's just, and then it just starts to thin out.
Right.
But like we talked about Lovelock Cave a little bit last time. I think it was 60, 70 giants in there. It took 3 tribes banding together to war against them to even drive them into the caves. So even at that point, and less powerful, but still massive, if it's taken 3 tribes to band together to fight 60, 70 giants, tells me they were still pretty powerful, right? Yeah. Like, that's crazy to me. And then you go to modern day times, and like they found Gilgamesh's grave back in 2003, right before the invasion of Iraq. And through the wiki links and all that stuff, there's hundreds of emails from every department within the White House. I mean, there's some from George W. Bush, I think it was, to President, I can't remember the French president at the time, it's not Macron, but saying we have a revelation-size event on our hand. The end times is among us.
Yeah.
Like, that's George W. Bush to another president saying why the importance of us going and invading Iraq. That's why it's that important. That's the weapon of mass destruction that they never found, I believe they were truly after.
The giants.
Mm-hmm. And so
they sent in the SWAT teams.
Not just necessarily the giants, specifically Gilgamesh's bones, his grave, and his regeneration chamber.
Wait, what?
Exactly.
Regeneration chamber?
It's listed in the emails that they found.
Regeneration chamber.
Regeneration chamber, which, you want to go back to current times and as in the days of Noah. What are they doing with those bones in that regeneration chamber? Are they trying to bring back a hybrid? Are they trying to take his DNA? Are they trying to bring Gilgamesh himself back? That I don't know and can't answer. But
you just took me somewhere. CERN.
It's a big part of it.
Took me to CERN.
Is actively a part of it. They're trying to break down the molecule to the smallest level to be able. They're playing hand in hand in this.
Oh,
yeah.
Dude,
you've been talking about CERN for the last 3 episodes.
That's what they do,
dude. CERN is creepy. So yeah,
regeneration chamber.
Regeneration chamber. So we came. The United States went over there, and it was 2 weeks after they made the announcement of the tomb being found. Our invasion was 2 weeks after. It was a German archaeologist who found it. United States showed up and kicked every single person off the site. The gentleman who found it,
to get some freedom
his
up in here.
Team,
Wow.
America. Yeah. So they kicked him out, flat out kicked him out, and then made it basically a no trespass zone. You get within this part and you're done. You're dead. Then they said, we're going to go to your Museum of Natural History, and we're going to set up shop there to protect your culture, your civilization, your antiquities. So, because you know what happens during war, everything's just blown up and taken away. Then you lose that history and that chance to learn from it. So that's what we said we were doing. And we did, the United States military did. But they also went in and found access to lower levels of the museum that were blocked off and not allowed to be visited by people, almost like hidden rooms down there, where they kept everything associated with the giants of old and those pre-civilizations, and basically the keys to understand what they're stealing at this gravesite. How do we unlock it? What do we do? What do we even know what it is? Well, you need these documents from the Museum of Natural History.
Maybe the Ark of Covenant is in the United States now, now that I think about it.
Yeah, it all makes sense now, dude.
Coming around first.
So, again, we came to protect their culture and their history and all of that. We stole all of that stuff out of the bottom and then dipped out and no longer. Once we had what we came for, we left the museum wide open and left hundreds of millions of dollars in gold coins. Like, those will sell anywhere. Artifacts, antiquity. Like, after that, you could buy like an old scroll from like 1200 BC for like $25 online, because they were just trying to flip it to get rid of it as quick as they could. All the people who stole it, all the looters and robbers. And so all of this stuff started coming out after like the WikiLeaks and the Freedom of Information Act, which is crazy because I was reading about it the other day. If you look up the name, they have the name of who filed the original report for the Freedom of Information to get those emails and documents. And it's either not a real person or it's been an alias used time again. Either way you look at it, even government-wise, there's no way to trace who this person is, why
Snowden.
they asked, where they came from. It's a lady. I'm trying to remember her name. It's a lady's name. And like, if you Google it and look it up, like she doesn't exist.
When did they release
Taylor Swift?
When did the WikiLeaks? When were they released?
Oh gosh, that was, man. When was Assange murdered or died?
He's dead?
Didn't Assange pass away in the last couple of years? 100% sure he did.
So recently. So
Julian
within the last 10
Assange?
years. Within the last 10 years, they were
Okay,
all
I
I
released.
gotta look that
and
up.
when did Snowden go rogue?
Oh, yeah. It's similarly around pretty close to
So
the same
I mean,
time.
that alias could be Snowden. Just saying.
Maybe he'll pick up where Assange left off.
Maybe.
But you also see then connecting that connection, you see the benefit and the value to Russia to keeping him alive and maintaining those secrets and that access,
It is
and
true.
offering him a place to stay.
They are keeping him alive.
He's still alive.
Is he?
Yeah.
Is he still in Sweden, or where's he consulate at? Where's he locked up at?
Oh.
Was he extradited back here? I don't think he
No,
was.
I don't
No.
think
Yeah.
so. We
Yeah.
would kill him.
Right. I thought he had passed away, honestly. But sorry, man, I'm not trying to kill you, bro. But and then you get into Russia, and then the ties with Revelation and
Yeah.
Gog and Magog returning from the north. And I think even in the WikiLinks, George W. Bush refers to that a couple times about the return of Gog and Magog and why this is necessary and needed for us to go get this chamber. But the U.S. came and did it all with the support and the help of a lot of other nations. So I'm not just blasting saying shame on us and da-da-da. I mean, there's a worldwide conspiracy that's bigger than us involved in all of this.
It's almost like a
Here he
secret
is.
society.
Almost.
He's been
Skull and
confirmed.
bones.
He's in an, I don't know what HM prison, Belmarsh in London since April 2019.
Okay, so he's in London, which is
in
almost as bad as
Belmarsh.
being here. But
Wow.
yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad he's still alive. I thought he had passed. Shame on me.
Dang it.
I'm glad I'm not a reporter anymore. I would have to
Fact check.
issue a correction and all that. But that's, you talk about current sites and stuff, and that's
Yeah. Get
yes,
some more dig sites.
not only are they actively finding them, but there's a lot of people actively looking for them. They found a replica of Osiris's tomb. I don't believe it was the
Osiris?
real one, next to the River Nile in Egypt, who would be their big god down there. So there are people actively looking and finding what they're looking for. Now, whether or not those make it to the news or a headline is a completely different story, because we all know who runs and owns all the news and media companies. So they're only going to let out what they want to let out, because it's the same people controlling the narrative everywhere else.
Right.
The Rockefellers.
So Gilgamesh is the one that made
J.P.
it out.
Morgan.
And then once that news made it out, and literally you can't find like anything about it after that. Like it's like it was announced, it's the big deal. We're about to learn so much about history. It's going to change everything. 2 weeks later, it's done. And so it went from the biggest archaeological finding like in hundreds of years to we don't talk about Bruno. No. So
It was our wedding day.
right.
913-717-9979. If you want to be part of the show, we got a couple of minutes left. If you want to call in and tell us you are a Nephilim, or you've seen one, or you dug up one, give us a call. It's 913-717-9979. Any other, you said you had a top 10 list?
Yeah, I didn't go through that, did I? All right. So 10 instances of giants found in the United States, and I'm going to go from smallest to largest
All
here.
right, let's go.
Some of these, you guys have probably heard of. Others I looked up to and was like, oh, no way. So Serpent Mound, Ohio. Obviously, you guys are aware of Serpent Mound and
Never
what
heard
that.
of it.
Never heard
Never
of
heard
it.
of it?
No, I've never heard. I'm just
Serpent?
Serpent Mound it's an old burial mound in Ohio. That's, I think it's 50, 60 feet, maybe higher in the air, that was built way back pre-flood. And it points, the head of the snake points directly towards the rising sun. And on the solstice, just like every other site like that, it almost looks like the sun is going into the snake's mouth. But
That's awesome.
Okay.
they started to dig there, found a 7-foot giant, and then Smithsonian and all the other buddies got involved. And so there's been no more digging or anything there. It's now a protected site that they're not allowed to dig and search at.
Wow.
What? So they didn't finish the dig?
They found one that's
That's all they need.
It's enough to know we're not doing that anymore.
close it down.
So
Yeah.
did we actually dig it up and preserve the bone somewhere?
Smithsonian has it.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
they got it, but it's not on
So
display.
you can visit the site. You can still go out to Serpent Mound. You can walk up it. You can do all that. Like it's a
but
true,
everything
like,
they
park.
found is gone.
Yeah, but
Okay.
there's nothing else. The giant and a few other bones and artifacts, but there's been no further digging because I don't want to destroy the historical site. I understand, with LiDAR and everything else right now, you're trying to tell me you're trying to bzzz over that and be like, oh, there's chamber here, 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 and here. And like at least know, but no, it's protected. Crescent Mound, West Virginia, they found a 7'2" giant. These mounds in Iowa didn't have a name, but they're more burial mounds in Iowa where they found 7'6" giants. If you guys are down, let's road trip to Steelville, Missouri.
Let's go.
There was a little kid who was digging for arrowheads, which used to be my favorite thing to do in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And found an 8-foot giant, bones. And almost all of these, again, like I said when I started, it's either gone back to the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, or Smithsonian has actively involved themselves and made it stop.
Which part?
The way every time they find them, it's covered up.
So if you look pre-1940,
we've done all these episodes about the secrecy of.
I'm just saying.
This is where you
He's like, man,
I'm
my
just saying.
mind is blown.
No, what I'm saying is, I don't see how. If I'm a little kid, I dug up. My parents are out here. Oh, why do we have to get anyone else involved? Why can't we just dig it up ourselves?
So
it's financial.
Side note: I was out exploring when I was a kid with my brother in
I miss doing that
in Tucson, Arizona, and we found a Native American bull.
Ooh.
And so we went to go take it to the local university just to see if we can get money out of it. But apparently,
nope. Whoop, they just take it from you.
They said they said something about it's not worth much, but you can donate it. And so we donated it, and they said it wasn't worth much.
Okay,
they got you.
They got us.
Dude,
when I was a kid, dude.
I'd have kept it. To this. If I ever find anything else, like I'm not that I ever turned anything in, but I mean I've got a few arrowheads left, but I want to go out and dig and do that again and just see what I can find and keep it, because I'm just fascinated now, and I feel like I know enough to probably confuse myself even more out there. But
yeah,
that's what it's
but it would be
hey, I just found a chamber.
So yeah, whenever you guys want to go down to Steelville, Missouri with some metal detectors and shovels, for a live episode, invite me.
Can we? It's not protected.
No, it's down there. You can go down there still.
All right.
Oh wow.
There's still areas around, right? Like
let's talk about it.
Miamisburg, Ohio, found a giant who was 8 foot 1.5 inches. San Diego giant, back when they were colonizing, or not colonizing, but moving out to California, he was 8'4". The Catalina Islands, which we kind of talked about earlier, the largest giant they found out there was 9'2", plus many more 7 to 8 feet tall.
Jeez.
Beaver Lake in the Ozarks. If we're in Steelville, let's go on down.
Beaver.
They found a 10-foot tall giant with a massive skull and hieroglyphics within his burial area, like on the rocks. Not petroglyphs, hieroglyphs, which means they're carved in. Petroglyph means it was drawn on, written on. Hieroglyphs are carved into.
Oh, God.
And if you guys knew that, that's the difference
I did
between.
not know that. That's good.
Thank you.
Petroglyph is a drawn picture. A hieroglyph is a written language. And
I thought they were all the same. Thank you
Nope.
for bringing that to light.
Which
got to the bottom of that.
if you look up, if you search just petroglyphs in North America and get into the Utah and Grand Canyon area, there is some absolute freaky stuff.
A lot of alien references.
A lot.
UFO references.
A lot of alien, UFO, and demonic references to like giants and stuff.
Yeah.
And hybrid creatures again.
Yep.
Almost like when they came over here, they tried to reset with a lot of their genetic mutations and mutilations and tried to get themselves back up and going as a force again. But yeah, if you look up a lot of those petroglyphs in North America, it's crazy. Lompoc Rancho. I didn't put what state that's in, my bad. But that was found in 1819. They found a 12-foot tall giant there. And then the best for last, West Hickory, Pennsylvania, in 1870, they found bones of an 18-foot tall giant.
My goodness, dude.
Okay, 18 foot.
Imagine.
Where was Goliath? Was that specific in the Bible?
Yeah, they give his height. I think he was around like 10, 11 feet.
18.
He's probably bony. He's probably thin.
Jeez.
Monster, dude.
But of course, ever since that's come out, I mean, obviously it's been a long time, but then everyone in history and anthropology gets involved. That's one of the ones they're trying to discredit as a hoax with gelatin bones and all that. Yet they still bought it for like $500. Like, why are you buying jelly from me? Gelatin.
why are you
no
doing
reason.
that?
No, nothing to see.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. So, I mean, that's just some of them, right? And I'm sure there's other ones I missed that had larger ones, maybe in different areas. Nothing I saw larger than that 18-footer. But all 100% direct proof that they ended up here.
Definitely.
You can go down to the Solomon Islands, like I said, and they think there are still giants hiding within the caves of the Solomon Islands because they've never been explored or looked into because they're not allowed to. So they said we don't even know the depths of these caves and how far back they go, or their correlation and connection with water.
Hollow Earth.
Because we've talked about that as far as, demonic entities and having a safe space within water, which was the chaos. And back in the old Bible days, you avoided the chaos.
It was the abyss.
It was the water, and there was a water entity that controlled the water and allowed certain access to some and not others, which is why a lot of, Phoenicians directly connect to the Canaanites. They're the ones who supposedly brought and got the giants over here and were a part of that. And they were one of the first known seafaring people in history, were the Phoenicians. They made boats worldwide famous and popular. They had the best state of the art, the fastest, could withstand anything. That's what the Phoenicians were known for, and they're directly tied into Canaanite lineage. So it's interesting. You go to Papua New Guinea, which is crazy. It's an island culture. They're not white, but almost all of their shamans and cult leaders, in order to commune with the spirits, paint themselves white and dye their hair red. Mm-hmm. And they think all of the original statues, from what they can tell from the ink and dyes that are left, all of the statues of the giants on the island were white with red hair. They can tell that from what's left. I mean, almost all of them have been weather stripped and beat away, but they can find traces of the colors of what they originally were. Yeah. And their skin was white and their hair was painted red. And to this day, the shamans and anyone on Papua New Guinea who's wanting to, from my studies, I've never been there, I'll be honest, but everyone to this day, anyone who goes down there or talks to them or wants to do, something with them, I'm sure they have an ayahuasca type supplement, something down there. They paint themselves white and they dye their hair red to be visible and to commune with the gods, to be relational with them. Which blows my mind.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Because that's obviously, one of these things does not belong. The white skin on the island like that.
So where did that come from?
Right? It's weird, man.
That's nuts.
Wow. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the Nephilim part 2.
Let's do a part 3.
No, I think we need to do a part 3 because we need to talk about adrenochrome. We need to talk about the ties into the Illuminati with this
genetic manipulation,
vaccines, CERN, the splicing of DNA. They
have the head of Pfizer on camera stating that they can fix genetic abnormalities in people and make them healthier and better overall.
Yep.
Wow.
Wait, that's not what that vaccine was supposed to do.
No. Yeah.
I'm not anti-vax. This last one that was rushed out and all that nonsense, man, that's a whole nother subject.
There's so many places we can go with this.
Exactly. Hey guys, make sure you visit us at our website, www.bottomofthat.com. Check out our blog, where you can check out our show notes and resource material from the shows that we do here. You'll also be able to find us on our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, X, and TikTok. If you are listening on YouTube, Rumble, and BitChute, and you like this episode, do me a favor. Give me a like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. And if you're listening on any other podcasting platforms, please follow, turn on notifications where you never miss when we publish an episode. If you did not like this episode, I thank you for listening this long. And tune in next week when you might hear Jacob say,